When we got a new truck, we found that it sat higher than the previous one. This made our fifth wheel sit higher in the front than in the back. We were interested in getting a lift to balance out the camper, but we couldn't figure out how big of a lift to put in. Tim scoured the internet trying to figure it out, but found nothing. So I went back to high school math to figure it out. And here we all thought we would never use it again. We used four measurements. The first measurement was the length of the camper from the frame in the front to the frame in the back. From here on out, this length will be known as A. The next measurement needed was the length from between the tires to the frame in the back. This length will be known as B. The last two measurements needed were the distances between the frame and the ground at both the front of the camper frame and the back of the camper frame. These measurements are C and D. Make sure the camper is hooked up to the truck with all the jacks up and on level ground when taking the last two measurements. We measured this distance 3 different times on 3 different sections of relatively flat road and found the average of those measurements. Time for math. First, we found the difference between measurements C and D. On our camper, the difference was 5 inches. That number will be known as E. Now we have the numbers required for the equation. A, which is the length of the camper frame. B, the length from between the tires to the back of the frame. And E, the height difference from the front to the back of the camper frame. Now we will use the theory of similar triangles. That theory means triangles with the same angles will have lengths of sides with equal ratios. Now let's plug our numbers in. We'll start with the big triangle since we have both lengths for it, the dimension of the camper, and the height difference from the front to back. Our camper had 21 feet for the length and 5 inches for the height difference. It's okay that we're mixing feet and inches. I'll explain that later. The second triangle is the smaller triangle, which has the length from the tires to the back of the camper and the unknown height difference from the back of the camper to the tires. Our camper had 8 feet to the back of the camper. Here's the triangles on top of each other to help you see what we are doing. Now we'll put the triangle lengths into the equation of B over A equals X over E. Here is where you can see that inches is on one side of the equation and feet are on the other side, so they cancel each other out. Feet over feet, inches over inches. Now we will go back to algebra to find x using cross multiplication. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 divided by 21 is 1.9. So x is 1.9, or the height difference from the tires to the back of the camper is 1.9 inches. Here you can see those numbers put back in the triangles. We wondered what the height difference would be if we put in a 1.75 inch lift. 1.75 is 0.15 inches less than the original 1.9. So let's plug that number back into the equation and remove the 5 so we can see what the new difference would be. Here's the same equation we used before. We still have the same camper lengths, but now we're going to use 0.15 in place of x and solve for E. 21 times 0.15 equals 3.15. And 3.15 divided by 8 is 0.39. So the new difference in height would be less than half of an inch if a lift of 1.75 inches was put on our camper. We decided to stay with the 1.75-inch lift in the end, and our camper is now level. Happy towing!